My family accused me of stealing for 3 years and treated me like a criminal, but when cameras revealed my one-year-old brother was the real thief all along, I rejected their money and left them with the guilt they deserved. I'm 23 years old. I work at a coffee shop while finishing college, and honestly, I need to get this off my chest because what happened in my family basically destroyed me for years, and I still struggle to process it. The thing is, from age 15 to 18, my entire family treated me like I was a criminal, a thief, the worst piece of trash that could exist. And it turns out that everything, absolutely everything, it was a lie. But I didn't find that out until a few months ago. After years of therapy and wondering if I was actually crazy or if I had blocked out memories of things I supposedly did. Let me start from the beginning. There were 5 of us in the house: my parents, Patrick, and my mom, my older sister Victoria, who was like 17 when all this started, me at 15, and my younger brother Ryan, who was barely 11 years old. Ryan was always the baby of the family. The golden child who could do no wrong, with his big eyes and his little angel face. Victoria was the responsible one, the one who got good grades and never caused problems. And I was in the middle, I guess, just trying to exist and get through high school without too much drama. My dad collected stuff. He had this huge collection of antique knives and blades that he kept in a display case in his study, and he also had like hundreds of baseball cards that, according to him, were worth a fortune. He'd spend hours organizing them and showing them to whoever would look. But it all started when I was 15 years old. My dad noticed that some knives were missing from his collection, like 3 or 4 pieces that were supposedly rare or valuable. I don't know exactly, because I was never really into his hobby. I remember he made a huge scene, searching the whole house, asking all of us if we'd seen anything. I told him no, obviously, because I hadn't touched his stuff. Victoria didn't know anything either, and Ryan was too young for anyone to suspect him, or so my parents thought. Like 2 weeks went by, and things seemed to have calmed down a bit, until one day my mom was cleaning my room, which I hated, by the way, because she never respected my privacy, and she found one of the knives under my bed, wrapped in an old t-shirt. I can't even describe what it felt like when they called me into the living room, and I saw that knife on the table. My dad had that look, that expression of disappointment and fury mixed together that I'll never forget. And my mom was standing there with her arms crossed, looking at me like I was a stranger. I swear on everything they want that I hadn't put that knife there. I told them 1,000 times. I begged them to believe me. But the more I denied it, the more convinced they were that I was a liar on top of being a thief. My dad said something like, "This was in your room, in your private space. No one else goes in there. Don't take us for idiots." And I tried to explain that someone else had to have put it there, that I didn't even know how it got there, but it sounded ridiculous even to my own ears. The punishment was brutal. They took away my phone, which back then was my only way to contact my friends. They confiscated my computer, so I couldn't do homework or anything. He had to use the school library for months. They gave me a curfew of 6 in the evening. Like, I literally couldn't leave the house after school for anything. And they gave me an endless list of chores, like washing all the dishes from all the meals, taking out the trash, mowing the lawn, cleaning the bathrooms. Basically, I became the maid of the house. But the worst part, what really destroyed me, was the way they looked at me. And then more things started disappearing. First, it was more knives. Then some of my dad's most valuable baseball cards. Then some money my mom had saved in her dresser. Every time something disappeared, it was automatically my fault. They didn't even investigate, didn't even consider other options. I was the family thief, period. They extended my curfew. Basically, I had to go straight from school to home and not leave my room except to eat and do chores. They searched my backpack every day when I got home from school. My dad put a lock on his study door. My mom started counting the money in her wallet in front of me, like so I'd know she was watching. What made everything worse was that they told the extended family. My aunt, my uncles, my cousins, everyone found out that I was a thief. Family gatherings became torture because everyone looked at me with distrust or pity, or both. No one talked to me normally. Everything was tense and weird. And somehow the news got to my school too. I don't know if it was my sister who said something or if some cousin mentioned it at their school and the gossip spread. But suddenly everyone knew that I stole things from my family. They started bullying me. They'd say things like, "Watch your backpacks, here comes the thief," or they'd ask me if I'd stolen my lunch or bought it honestly. It was horrible, like one of those things that makes you want to disappear. When I turned 16, my parents didn't even celebrate my birthday. They said I didn't deserve a party after what I'd done, and that the money they would have spent on me they were saving to replace the things I'd supposedly stolen and sold or lost. All my friends had sweet 16 parties, some even got cars, and I didn't even get a cake. They also wouldn't let me get my driver's license when I came of age. They said they didn't trust me with that responsibility. Victoria tried to defend me a couple times. She told my parents that maybe they were being too harsh, but they shut her down, saying she didn't understand the gravity of the situation. The next 2 years were basically the same, but worse. More things would disappear sporadically, and I was still the automatic culprit. I stopped, denying it after a while because it didn't do any good. It just made my parents angrier. I became quiet, gray, like a ghost in my own home. I started doubting myself. Seriously. There came a point where I thought, what if I really did do it and don't remember? What if I have some mental problem that makes me steal things and then block out the memories? It sounds stupid now, but when your whole family, the people who are supposed to know you better than anyone, tell you over and over that you're a thief, you start to believe it. I went to school in a constant state of anxiety, came home afraid of what new accusation awaited me, what new punishment they'd invent. The day I turned 18, I left the house. I'd been secretly saving money I earned from a part-time job. I got on the sly. He told my parents I had after-school activity, and I'd applied to colleges that were far away. Very far away. I got a partial scholarship and student loans for the rest. The morning of my birthday, I just packed my things, the few I had, and left while my parents were at work and Ryan was at school. I left a note that said something like, "I'm leaving, don't look for me, I don't want to know anything about you." Victoria helped me without my parents knowing. She drove me to the bus station and gave me some money she'd saved. She told me she was so sorry for everything that had happened, that she never really believed I was a thief, but that she hadn't been able to do anything to change our parents' minds. For the next 5 years, I basically had no contact with my family. I blocked their numbers, didn't respond to emails, nothing. I focused on college, on working, on building a life where no one knew me as the family thief. I did therapy, lots of therapy, to process all the trauma of feeling rejected and betrayed by the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. Slowly, I started rebuilding my self-esteem and understanding that I wasn't crazy, that I knew the truth of what had happened even if no one else believed me. About 6 months ago, I got a call from my mom. I'd recently changed numbers and still hadn't blocked the new one, so I answered without thinking. Her voice sounded strange, like nervous and shaky, and she told me they needed to talk to me, that it was important. I was about to hang up, but something in her tone stopped me. She told me that things had been disappearing from the house again, that my dad had put up security cameras because he was fed up with losing valuable things, and that the cameras had caught something. I felt like a chill in my stomach, like I knew what was coming but didn't want to hear it. Turns out the cameras recorded Ryan, my younger brother who was now 18, stealing money from my dad's study. When they confronted him with the video, Ryan broke down and confessed everything. He confessed that he'd been stealing since he was 11 years old, that he'd taken the knives and the baseball cards and everything else. He confessed that he'd put that first knife in my room because he knew I'd be the obvious suspect, the middle brother who no one watched as closely as the baby of the family. And he confessed that he'd kept stealing for years, even after I left the house, because he knew my parents would never suspect him. My mom was crying on the phone, saying I'm sorry over and over, saying they'd made a terrible mistake, that they should never have treated me the way they did, that they wanted to make things right. I told them I'd come talk to them, but, honestly, I don't know what I expected to accomplish with that. When I got to the house, which I hadn't seen in 5 years, I felt like a stranger. My dad was there. He looked older, more tired, and when he saw me, he didn't know what to say. He apologized, said he was so sorry for doubting me, that he had no excuse for being so cruel and blind. My mom also apologized, crying, trying to hug me, but I was like numb, unable to feel anything. They explained that they wanted to compensate me somehow, that they were planning a dinner for my mom's birthday and wanted me to come, that the extended family would be there and they wanted everyone to know the truth. I agreed to go. I don't know why. Maybe out of curiosity or because part of me still wanted some kind of closure or validation. The dinner was awkward from the start. Everyone was there. My uncles, my aunts, my cousins, and there was like this tension in the air because obviously my parents had told them the truth about Ryan, but no one knew how to act around me. Everything was going relatively well. I mean, as well as it could go considering the circumstances, until my cousin Melissa, who'd always been kind of mouthy, made a comment. She said something like, "Well, at least now we know we can leave our wallets on the table without worrying," laughing like it was a super funny joke. There was a horrible silence. Everyone stared at Melissa, and then at me, and I felt like all the rage from years, rising up my throat. I told her, "You think that's funny? You think it's amusing that they treated me like trash for 3 years for something I didn't do?" And she got all defensive, saying it was just a joke, not to be so sensitive, but I'd already exploded. I told her that thanks to comments like hers and the lack of support from the whole family, I'd spent years thinking I was crazy, that I'd lost my entire adolescence, that they'd stolen my childhood because everyone preferred to believe the worst of me without any real evidence. My Uncle Timothy, Melissa's dad, jumped in saying not to talk to his daughter that way, and I basically told him his daughter was part of the problem, and the whole family was. I got up from the table, told my parents I appreciated the apology, but that an awkward dinner didn't fix 5 years of abuse and trauma, and I left. My dad followed me to the car, tried to stop me, asked me what he could do to fix things, and I honestly didn't know what to tell him. I told him there was nothing to do, that the damage was done, that they couldn't give me those years back. He told me Ryan was going to get professional help, that they were going to send him to therapy, but I didn't care anymore what they did with Ryan. I left and didn't look back. A couple weeks later, I found out from Victoria, who's the only one I keep in contact with, that Ryan had stolen my grandparents' truck and crashed it while driving without a license to go sell some things he'd stolen from their house. My grandparents kicked him out immediately. My parents had to cancel Ryan's college fund to pay for the truck damages and legal expenses because Ryan was arrested. The truth is, I didn't feel satisfaction hearing that. I just felt empty, like none of that gave me back what I'd lost. My parents called me after that, said they wanted to compensate me, that they were going to pay my student loans and buy me a car like the one I should have had at 16. I told them I didn't want their money, that they couldn't buy my forgiveness or erase what they'd done. My mom started crying again, saying they just wanted to help, but I explained to them that the help I needed was 5 years ago when they were destroying me, not now when they finally had proof of my innocence. Ryan apparently got probation because it was his first official arrest, but according to Victoria, he kept stealing from my parents. Took money from their emergency savings several times until they caught him again. Now he lives in a small apartment my parents pay for because they don't want him on the street, but the relationship is super tense. Victoria tells me my parents ask about me all the time, that they want to rebuild our relationship, but honestly, I don't know if I have the emotional energy for that. About a month ago, I sent them a final message. I told them I appreciated that they finally knew the truth and had apologized, but that I needed to move forward with my life without them in it. I explained that for years they made me feel like I was worthless, like I was unworthy of trust or love, and that kind of damage doesn't get fixed with apologies and money. I told them I forgave them. Not for them, but for me, because carrying that resentment was consuming me. But that forgiving didn't mean forgetting or having a relationship again. Now I'm focused on finishing my degree, on keeping my job, on building healthy relationships with people who value me and believe me. I see a therapist regularly still, because there are days when it all comes back and I feel like that one 5-year-old kid begging his parents to believe him. But most days I'm okay, or at least I'm learning to be okay. Victoria comes to visit me sometimes. We talk about everything except the family, and I like that. She's the only one who really tried to be on my side, even though she couldn't do much at the time. The truth is, I don't know if I'll ever be able to have a normal relationship with my parents. Part of me wants to try, because despite everything, they're still my parents and I grew up loving them. But another part of me, the part that spent years being treated like a criminal in their own home, can't forget. can't overlook the fact that they preferred to believe their 5-year-old son was a lying thief, rather than consider that maybe, just maybe, they were wrong. And that's something I'm going to have to live with for the rest of my life, I guess.